You and your team have certainly found a way to get the whole province on board with the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, and you guys are just fresh off the AGM. Yeah, this is just a short time ago.
Yeah. Just a couple weeks ago, we hosted our AGM in Red Deer. Fantastic turnout. We had just such a great representation of chambers of all sizes from across the province. So really excited to, you know, 22 policies passed, and we had some unanimous support on some really important policies around childcare and enterprise and those things. So really excited. We had Premier Smith joined us to help Red Deer celebrate their 130th anniversary. So if you can imagine that, the chamber's been around longer than the city of Red Deer
Yeah,
has
that's
been.
wild.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
So and such a great story too.
yeah. So they sort of go through a reflection on the benefits of membership 130 years ago, or maybe what the business landscape looked like a century ago versus today. That must have been fascinating to hear about.
Yeah, and it is fascinating in terms of, it was a group of traders on the banks of the Red Deer River talking about how they could get together and form a board of trade so that they could collectively bargain a little bit better with their neighbors and ensure that they were going to have some prosperity in that region.
Wow, that's so cool. Hey, what was the childcare resolution that passed? Can you take us into some of the details? I mean, I know people would be very interested once you start talking about that.
Yeah, so obviously childcare is a huge challenge for a lot of families in the province, one that we're really closely following because obviously we know businesses are telling us that, skilled workers are one of the biggest challenges that they're facing in terms of trying to get the people that they need to take on the job so that their businesses can prosper a little bit more. And so really it's about looking at the impacts that we're hearing about from childcare providers in terms of some of that auditing, additional costs around auditing, how we can enhance childcare, payment methods, all of those types of things so that we can get costs down for families and we can get individuals back out into the workforce with affordable childcare for all.
Is that
And
what
I
it?
mean, both federally and provincially, this is being worked on, but we really need to pay attention to some of the red tape that's surrounding, childcare and childcare operators.
Is that one of the areas where you would see like you may have a chamber from a town or village with a relatively modest population versus a chamber in a city of 1 million, and they're coming at it from similar angles, or do you see different perspectives on childcare? I would imagine and other issues that are maybe landing a little bit differently at an AGM, considering the diversity of population size and other factors that play from some of your members.
Yeah, fantastic point, Ryan, in terms of, this was one of our unanimous policies. And the
Wow.
reason being is that it's impacting, and when I say unanimous, I mean, we're talking about chambers of all sizes, with memberships of 25 to 50, all the way up to our big chambers with over thousands of members. So it's impacting all of them in the same way. And they, like I said, they voted unanimously on the policy because it's just so important for our business community across the province. It doesn't matter where you are, people need childcare.
Yeah. Well, how about when you talk about costs? I just have to imagine. I was talking to a business owner just yesterday, dropped into his shop, and his business uses a ton of utilities. He uses a lot of water and he uses a lot of power. And I said, how have things been lately? And he didn't really use words. He just kind of used his eyebrows to communicate with me on the stresses that he's seen, the cost increases. You must have heard that across the board from members at the AGM.
Yeah, another one of our unanimous policies was supporting interties in the province. So that critical infrastructure that we're going to need to bring down some of those costs. And you know what I hear is just really sad, to be honest with you, Ryan. Like I was speaking with a brewery in central Alberta, and when your utility costs start lapsing your lease costs, it's unheard of in terms of being able to do business and in being able to have eke out the margins that you need in order to survive and sustain operations. It's so critically important. We, of course, we'll maybe talk about this as well, our provincial priorities research, but 68% of businesses have been telling us that they are very concerned about the cost of utilities and how those costs are impacting their bottom lines.
So at the end of the day, if you were to walk away from that AGM, like was there kind of like, I mean, there's a lot of talk about cost, obviously operations costs. This, I mean, that's obviously a pressure I think that people feel across the country and certainly here in Alberta. Was that the common theme, or was there another thread running through that AGM where you noted, business owners, business operators from across the province are honing in on some particular challenges or particular priorities? What else came out of the AGM theme wise?
Yeah, I think just as a themed, there's lots of things, but when you talk about policies, talking about things like tax reform, water sustainability, business investment in housing. I mean, obviously housing is a huge challenge for us with our population growth and being able to house newcomers coming to the province. Just a lot of support for Alberta-based products and technology to ensure that we're supporting made in Alberta solutions. And interestingly enough, talking about things like employee shareholder ownership structures, where we can start looking at raising capital and providing more incentivization to employees to keep them in the businesses. So lots of stuff came out. We had lots of conversations, lots of debate on the policies, and really excited about. Now I've got my marching orders. Now my job is to ensure that I'm talking to elected officials at all levels of government about why these policies are important and advocating on behalf of our businesses.
Yeah, one of the I noted this on the itinerary. You guys had a panel on contraband tobacco. How did that go? That sounds fascinating. What was the angle of? I mean, I guess different angles of approach. You had a number of different panelists, but how did that come about, and why was that of interest to everybody?
Well, it's really interesting because when you talk about organized crime, obviously the big things we are always talking about are, the drugs, alcohol, the big ones that come with, heavy fines and jail time. Contraband tobacco, though, is multi-million-dollar organized crime. It is going into the coffers of organized crime, and it's not, well, obviously there's no jail time attached to it. It's really interesting because it's taking literally millions of dollars in tax dollars out of the system. And so it's having a huge impact. It's having a huge impact on, one of the panelists was with the Convenience Industry Council of Canada. And she just talked about how it's impacting bottom lines for your local convenience store, and how that's having an impact in terms of, like, they were seeing tons of shutdowns across the country as a result of some of the dollars that were being lost to contraband tobacco. So had a great panel. We had Rothmans, Benson and Hedges. We had AGLC also there, as well as the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco. So it was a really interesting panel because it's kind of, it's on the periphery. It's not something that we're talking about a lot when we talk about organized crime, but it's just really, really interesting to see the impact that that's having, in terms of the bottom line and the costs to society and to the provincial coffers even.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, you kind of go, yeah. I mean, I guess there are people that have that. They have their person, they have their supply. They've found a way to get around the taxes. Or I know that when menthol was outlawed in Canada, a lot of people found ways to get their menthol cigarettes. But to hear that it's enough of an issue that it's on people's radar when it comes to the small businesses all the way up to big business, and that it's significant enough to be capturing everybody's attention is really a fascinating story for me. I'm glad that Alberta Chambers is putting that on the radar, putting that on our radar. Also, I note that there was a unanimous policy passed with water sustainability, which some people may go, well, that's interesting that's something that's going to be coming out of an Alberta Chambers AGM. Water sustainability, obviously relevant and pertinent to a lot of businesses. What was that conversation like in the room?
Well, I mean, water sustainability impacts so many businesses. Obviously, agriculture. We have big business in agriculture, and with the droughts that we've been experiencing in the last several years, that ability to have that supply of water to support the growth of that industry, but to ensure that we can grow those crops and we can feed the world is really important, and that impacts so many other things. We are kind of the breadbasket, and we have so much to offer in terms of the crops, the resources that come from from the land that we are so blessed to have. So water is obviously a key ingredient to that, and we need to make sure that we can continue to sustain those levels of productivity in that sector. And
Yeah,
so again, it's one of those things that's, you wouldn't necessarily think a business or organization is talking about things like housing and water and childcare. But the reality is, the bottom line is that all of those impact our ability to do business, our ability to generate the revenues, our ability to get the individuals into the seats that we need. So
100%.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
and
trying to grow your
being able to
business.
house
Nobody
them
can
is
find
an
housing. You got an issue, right? I mean,
exactly.
yeah, no brainer. Shout out to the Chambers of the Year award winners and our fellow Albertans in Cardston and Coaldale, Fort McMurray, Grimshaw and District, Okotoks and District. That's they walk with walk a few inches higher through the room, walk with their heads held high, winning a Chamber of the Year award. That's a pretty big deal for those crews.
Yeah, and I just have to give a shout out to those five chambers. All of our chambers across the province work so hard every single day. But those five, they've distinguished themselves in various ways in their communities, doing really great work, hosting events or taking on priorities in their municipalities that are really impacting their communities and the business community in their municipalities. So yeah, just a huge shout out to those five. We're so excited to be able to give them the award and to honor them for the hard work.
Yeah. Hey, while we're talking awards, are nominations still open for the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction? Can people still nominate, or are they closed?
No, they're closed, Ryan.
Okay.
We had 282 submissions
Wow.
this year across 13 award categories. So just incredible number of nominations. We're so excited. The finalists have actually been announced.
Okay, I'm
The
looking right
event's
now.
coming up on June 20th. So I think we shared the link
Yeah, you did.
that you can share with your viewers. We encourage anybody to come out. I mean, it's just such a fantastic opportunity to celebrate innovative, unique, inspiring businesses across the province of Alberta. So, yeah, like I said, coming up on June 20th. And this is the 32nd year we've ran the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction. So, looking forward to having everybody join us who'd be interested to support some of those businesses.
Yeah, I'm reading through the list right now of the 2024 award finalists. I don't want to say any of them because then I'll be coming across like I'm playing favorites, but some friends on this
Exactly.
list, and I'm excited for them. People can check out abbusinessawards.com. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. Since you and I last spoke, I mean, this was relatively recent, just last week, the spring session wraps at the Alberta Legislature, and obviously you and your team are paying very close attention to what happens through session, the implications on business. I know in particular that Alberta Chambers was keeping an eye on this Aboriginal Business Investment Fund and the expansion of resources for First Nations entrepreneurs. At the end of the day, where did that land with you now that session has wrapped?
Oh, it's an incredibly positive step. It just gives us the opportunity um, to have Alberta lead that vision of shared prosperity with First Nations entrepreneurs, and really excited about that because so many of, when we look at the energy industry alone in Alberta, and you're talking about clean technologies, green technologies. So many of those projects can be done in cooperation with First Nations communities, and we're just really excited that the province is funding some of those partnerships and the ability for those types of projects to move forward. And that's just one area. I mean, there's so many different opportunities through that funding. So just an incredibly positive step.
Where did you land? I mean, you and I talked, I think before the session even started, about the skilled trade shortage, the skilled worker shortage, and just some of the challenges that businesses are having in either staffing up to where they need to be, or let alone considering growth. Were you satisfied with or encouraged by any progress in that context over the past number of weeks or months?
Absolutely. Same thing. We're just really excited to see the investment into those increased apprenticeship seats across the province. That's critically important for the trades, as well as support for programs like dual credit. So your ability to get students from high school into post-secondary through dual crediting much quicker and get them graduated and into the workforce more rapidly. So funding for all of those types of initiatives is very positive as well.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's a storyline to follow, right? I'm watching all these bold prognostications around population growth and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, you got to consider like where people are coming from, how businesses are growing. Like you said earlier, 5 minutes ago, where all these people are going to live. I mean, it's obviously exciting, way better than talking about populations that are dwindling or stagnant. But the implications of it are so significant, which is why I think it's great that you and the team at Alberta Chambers are all over this. Before we run out of time, I want to ask you about these provincial priorities, the research that the team does, and to put out a call to action to real talkers who I know would be pretty keen on having their perspectives represented, their voices heard. How can they get involved?
Absolutely. So since 2019, we've been doing these major provincial priorities benchmark surveys. It really is and on your show, Ryan, I don't know how many times I've shared stats on, well, things like electricity and knowing how many businesses are being impacted. So it really touches on the priority areas for Alberta Business. It gives us a real-time understanding of where the pain points are and how we can look at advocating on behalf of business around those pain points. It really it gives us perspective because it's not limited to one size of business, one industry, but really is a reflection of the business environment in the province of Alberta. So I would just really encourage your viewers to take 8 minutes. It's more of an in-depth survey, so it's not one of these hot button ones that we do where it's like a minute. It takes about 8 minutes, but highly encourage you, if you're a business owner in the province of Alberta, to do that survey, give us some of the information that we need so that we can better advocate on behalf of you, of businesses within the province, because that's really the intent of this. The other thing too with the benchmarking surveys is that then we can also see over time, year over year, what's changing, where those priorities are for Alberta businesses.
Yeah, I always try to think of things in terms of when you say, yeah, it is 8 minutes. It is 8 minutes. I think, man, I waste 8 minutes at least several times a day scrolling on my phone with nothing that adds any value. So to take 8 minutes and to have your voice heard on something like this is a great opportunity and a really big deal. We'll link to everything in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube, but people can also check out abchamber.ca to learn more about the work that the Alberta Chambers of Commerce are doing. Is there anything else that I know you guys have the e-petition going with capital gains. You got a whole, but your team is like pedal to the metal, right? You guys didn't get the memo. The summer is coming. You guys are like full speed ahead. I love it.
Yeah, no, there's no such thing as summer in the chamber world. It just gets busier and busier. But it's funny because when you said the 8 minutes thing too, I'm just like, I can just see my team cringing. I know that they're just cringing that I said that more than once. So to your point, please, it's only 8 minutes.
It's only 8 minutes. That's like Stairway to Heaven once, I think. It's nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah. And so the capital gains petition that's going now, critically important. Obviously, some major changes came down in budget. They pulled it out of the omnibus, so they're going to be debating it separately. But just to go from 50% to 66% on anything over $250,000, well, I mean, that's just going to critically impact small business owners, everything from, housing to healthcare. Professionals that have professional corporations are going to be impacted. So I really highly encourage everybody to take a look at that petition, sign off on it. As these are going up, the MP from the St. Albert region will be standing up and bringing it up over and over again. So this is just something that we need to continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal. Obviously, we've written letters. The Canadian Chamber has written letters that we've signed off on. Our provincial counterparts and obviously our local chambers as well are right on top of this because it's a really, really, really important one for small businesses and small business owners. I mean, let's face it, small business owners, a lot of them don't have retirement plans. Their retirement plan is going to be the sale of their business. And when they're looking at being taxed 66% on any gains that they get on that, over $250,000, that's substantial. So we would just encourage everybody to join the campaign, get your voice heard. And as small business owners, it's critically important that we're paying attention and we're really pushing the federal government to pull this.
Okay, so you've got the capital gains e-petition open. You've got the provincial priorities survey open till June 7th. So folks have a few days to complete that, 4 days to complete that. And then, of course, the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction go June 20th. That's always such a great party. And obviously everybody's celebrating some of the like the upstarts and the smaller businesses. And then I like even like the marketing awards, some of the bigger businesses, and just everybody doing a great job. Again, abchamber.ca. That's the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, led by our guest the first Monday of every month. She's got her eye on Alberta Business. It's President and CEO Shauna Feth. It's nice to see your face again, Shauna. Thanks for doing this.
You too, Ron. And maybe could we just plug that? I think following the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction, we're actually going to do a panel with you with some of the winners.
I love that.
So,
we'll do it right here on Real Talk. I didn't know if we were revealing that yet, but that is.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not. It's
Spoiler
fine.
alert.
No, that's great. You're the one that gets to make the big announcement. So yeah, we're gonna bring in 3 of the movers and shakers, and of course they'll represent diverse and different perspectives, different industries, and we love that. Like just picking the brains of people that are excelling in their field, figuring out how they're doing it. I'm always keen to figure out how people are getting past the hurdles, how they're solving the challenges and the problems. Yeah. It's great to focus on the achievements, obviously, but I love hearing like what's the biggest challenge you're facing and how are you combating it or how are you counteracting it. That's the stuff that people can relate to across the board, you know?
Excellent. Well, looking forward to it. Thanks again for having me, Ron.
You bet, Shauna. Nice to see your face. Take care. That's Shauna Feth, President and CEO of the Alberta Chambers of Commerce.